What if the real reason money feels so heavy in your marriage has nothing to do with money at all? You thought it was about the bills, about the account balance, about who spent what and when. But it never was. There is a reason God allows this kind of pressure inside a marriage, and it is not what most couples think. You have had that conversation before, the one that starts as a quiet comment and somehow turns into something that cuts deeper than either of you expected. Financial stress keeps knocking on your door, again and again, not because you are doing something wrong, but because something specific is being exposed. And you both love God, you both pray, you both keep going, and yet the weight is still there. If that sounds familiar, hear this. You are not failing. Your marriage is not broken. God is not silent. He is working inside the tension itself. Stay with me, because what I am about to share will change how you interpret this entire season. The first thing you need to understand is this: money is not the problem. Money is the mirror. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 24, Jesus said, "You cannot serve both God and money." Most people read that as a warning about greed, but look deeper. He said money competes for your loyalty, your emotional loyalty. And nowhere is that competition more exposed than inside a marriage under financial pressure. When resources feel limited, everything hidden rises to the surface: control, insecurity, the quiet need to feel safe that each of you has been carrying, often alone, without saying it out loud. And this is where most couples get it wrong. They try to solve the money problem before they ever look at what the money is revealing. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 through 12, reminds us that two are better than one, because if one falls, the other can lift them up. But here is what we often miss. That passage is not just about romantic partnership. It is about shared burden, about what happens when life becomes genuinely heavy and you choose to carry it together instead of retreating into silence. The distance you feel right now is not the enemy. The distance is showing you what was never fully aligned. And if you are honest with yourself, this was never really about money, was it? Second truth: financial stress does not create distance in a marriage. It reveals distance that was already there. The prophet Amos asked a simple question in chapter 3, verse 3. Can two walk together unless they agree? He was speaking to a nation that appeared unified on the outside, but was fractured at the root. Many couples function smoothly when life is comfortable, but the moment financial pressure enters, something shifts. Conversations become transactional. Silences grow heavier. One person feels anxious, the other feels controlled. And both of them start to wonder, quietly, if God has gone somewhere else. He has not. He is right there in the tension. Because tension is often exactly where He does His most important work. Third, stress exposes what sufficiency was hiding. Here is something most people never hear about Haggai. He was speaking to a people who had just survived exile. They had lost everything, rebuilt their lives from nothing, and were finally stable again. They had their own homes. Their finances were functioning, and yet something kept feeling distant from what it was supposed to be. In chapter 1, verses 5 through 7, God said, "Consider your ways." The effort was not the issue. The alignment was. They had been building their own comfort while neglecting what actually mattered. But here is what no one tells you about this passage. God was not angry. He was redirecting. This is happening in countless marriages right now. Two people working harder than ever, doing everything right on paper. And still peace keeps escaping them, not just financially, spiritually, emotionally. The question God is raising through the pressure is not, how do we make more money? The question is, what are we actually building? And are we building it together? Are you constructing a life or just paying for one? Pause for a second. This next part might be uncomfortable. Fourth, God uses financial tension to expose the places where you have been functioning separately without realizing it. Money decisions are never just practical. They carry identity. The person who wants to save is not just cautious. They are often carrying an old wound about security that never fully healed. The person who wants to move forward is often carrying a fear of stagnation, a deep need to feel like they are not falling behind. 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 7 calls husbands to live with their wives in an understanding way, with deep, intentional knowledge of who she is and what she carries. And the same invitation extends to every person in a marriage, to know your partner not just by their decisions, but by the fears underneath them. Most financial arguments in marriage are not arguments about money. They are fear speaking two different languages. So let me ask you directly, are you fighting each other, or are you both fighting what you are afraid of? Fifth, what God is removing in this season is not your comfort. It is your independence. In John chapter 15, Jesus describes a vine being pruned, not because the branches are dead, but because the gardener wants more fruit. The pruning feels like loss, but what is actually being removed is the part of you that was growing sideways instead of upward. The self-sufficiency, the private agendas, the idea that I've got this, even inside a marriage designed for we've got this. And this is the part that changes everything. Sixth, what God is building through this is something you could not have built without the pressure. The unity that comes out of a difficult financial season in marriage is not the kind you get from smooth seasons. It is tested. It is real. When two people choose, repeatedly, imperfectly, faithfully, to stay aligned with God and with each other through genuine hardship, something forms between them that comfort cannot manufacture. You are learning how to make decisions as one, how to bring fears to the surface before they become weapons, how to sit with uncertainty together instead of running toward different kinds of control. And seventh, the invitation inside this season is not to fix your finances. It is to find your unity. The same truth Jesus named at the beginning of this message points to something deeper than greed. It asks, who is actually governing your home? If financial fear is leading your conversations, God wants to be invited back into that room. If silence has been protecting you both from a conversation that needs to happen, this is the season to have it. If you have been carrying money anxiety alone, telling yourself it is not spiritual enough to bring to God, He already knows. He is not disappointed. He is waiting. If this message found you in a season where financial stress has been creating distance in your marriage, hear this. He is not absent. He is not withholding. He is at work in the very tension you have been trying to survive. This is not the season that breaks your marriage. This is the season that reveals whether it can truly become one. Type the word "together" in the comments if this message is speaking to something real in your life right now. And if this reached you, share it with the person you are walking this season with. Sometimes a message like this one is the beginning of a conversation that needed to happen for a long time. There is another video I want you to see next, because what we talked about today is only part of what God may be doing in this season. The next message goes deeper into what happens when financial pressure does not just test your marriage, but begins to clarify your purpose. It is waiting for you.